Yeah, but that meeting we had with him was one of the best meetings we've ever had.
Oh, I was so nervous. I was like fully like sweating. I think my chest was red.
But yeah, and I remember we were like in the hallway. I think it was the Justice Building, and we were freaking out. We were just like, what if it's
Oh,
awkward? What if we puke on him? Like, hi all. Thanks for stopping by. We are very lucky to have my good friend Sarah on the program today. Sarah is based in Calgary. We go back. It's actually only been, I think, 3 years, but it's felt like a lifetime in a good way. We met working on the Hill together in the summer of 2018.
and what a glorious summer it was. A summer of learning, a summer of bonding.
A summer of crying,
Whole lot of crying. A
whole lot.
lot of
Yeah, that was I honestly think that was probably one of the most formative summers of my life working on the Hill.
I was just about to say formative. Yeah, I think in more ways than one, it was definitely the most formative, the most yeah, I think like shaping sort of summers of my life. That's blasting me off on a path to unemployment.
Yeah, I think we just have so many like preconceived notions as to what working on the Hill is going to be. And, we were like starry eyed young women working in politics for the first time, which is honestly pretty impressive that we both got that internship having no political experience before.
Political experience. Yeah, I remember for my application, one of the components was that you had to get, someone politically involved, a member of parliament, to write you a recommendation letter. And I dug and dug, meaning I got my parents to dig and dig to see if they knew any connections in conservative politics. And, all their friends are in the private sector now, rightfully so. So I had no political connection. So I ended up writing myself a letter, and it was just a case to my my passion as a young conservative woman. And whether it was a quota hire, I'm not sure. But we got there. We got there on the Hill in 2018, that fateful summer.
Yeah, don't ask questions that you don't want the answer to, Sarah.
I loved going to question period and trying to make eye contact with Maxine Bernier, hoping he didn't
Oh,
wink.
I made some like sultry eye contact with Maxime Bernier. I remember one time, because I used to go almost every single lunchtime, and one day I remember my boss, he looked up at me from his chair, just seeing me probably for the 16th day in a row at question period. And he just gave me a look like, why are you here? But I think that was probably one of the best, most exciting things about being an intern was attending question period.
Yeah, and trying to sometimes we get some Pierre Polyev eye contact. But mostly, yeah, Maxime was yeah, well, we were put in a very uncomfortable position where we lusted over Maxime with the with with the yearning of 72 virgins, but at the same time he was kicked out of coffee. Yeah, but that meeting we had with him was one of the best meetings we've ever had.
Oh, I was so nervous. I was like fully like sweating. I think my chest was red.
But yeah, and I remember we were like in the hallway. I think it was the Justice Building, and we were freaking out. We were just like, what if it's
Oh,
awkward? What if we puke on him? Like,
actually, I remember we actually ran through the scenarios of like, what if we throw up? What if like, what if I sweat so much that like, I'm like slipping all over the place. It was seriously like that. If we're talking about my life so far, the peak, the apex, people are like, oh, have you met a celebrity before? They're talking about like, yeah, I've met Ben Affleck. I'm like, I have met Maxime Bernier. Who? But
yeah, we were definitely acting as if we were backstage at a One Direction concert, which
oh,
says more about us than anything else. I was so naive about like the political state in general, but also like the day to day. I thought I would be drafting legislation. I guess I'm a full-blown moron also. Like I went and I had like my little like briefcase, like bag. And I was like, I'm just here to change Canada and all of its and solve all of its problems. I did none of those. Probably created some problems, if I'm being honest.
Oh, bunch of problems. Well, and I think that that's the thing. Having had an intern in my last role, it was a bit of a disappointment realizing now myself giving work to an intern. It's not special projects they're creating. It's not really much that's helpful. It's all the stuff that nobody else wants to do. That's what interns do. I've just realized that. So that was a bit of a downer, but it makes sense, like the amount of databases that I had to update that no one's going to look at. No one's ever going to look at those databases. It was a lot of make work projects, I'd say.
The most formative and I think culture shock event was the incessant door knocking, the constant door knocking, getting up at 5 a.m. to shower, to get on a school bus with a bunch of 20-year-olds. Can you just picture this? The same guys that like walk into school with suits, just sitting on a school bus, going to door knock in God knows where, Ontario, for 8 hours. And that was, I think, the bulk of our work was canvassing.
I think the voluntold aspect of all of that was definitely probably the most that took up the most hours. That and probably Skype for Business, that took up a bunch of hours, huge hours. If you want to teach somebody rejection and how to deal with rejection, my goodness, toss a 20-year-old kid into Ajax, Ontario, and they'll come out knowing how, I'll tell you that much. It was a whole lot of door slams in the face. Never had that before. Never people yelling at me. But it's true, Sam, like, especially door knocking for a provincial election, you don't necessarily know. I didn't know anything about Ontario government. So having to stand there, door after door trying to sell, this candidate to those people, it was tough. It was very, very tough.
Yeah, we definitely fortified our salesmanship. I think selling a product that you know nothing about. I remember I'd go door to door and people would say, what is Doug Ford for? And I would say, less expensive hydro. And they go, how? And I said, lady, I'm just trying to fill in the little Sims to go app. Like I don't know, I'm from Quebec. We have our own problems, our own politics. Like I can't, my brain cannot, hold that much useless information. But yeah, no.
Well, like, ma'am, it is 7 p.m. Saturday. I don't want to be here. You certainly don't want to be here. Just let me fill in the app, please.
And we were constantly told too that door knocking was the way to people's hearts. I persuaded exactly 0 people. I think I dissuaded some people.
Yeah, I'm sure at some point I took supporters and I drove them the exact opposite way.
Yeah, and I think if you are, well, maybe this could be a bit of an advice video. If you're looking to do a political internship in Canada, you best get ready to canvass your ass off. Like it's non-negotiable.
When they say the odd evening and weekend, take that and flip it. It's going to be the odd evening and weekend you will get free. And I think that there were certain ways that you could get around the canvassing. For example, if you were enrolled in a PhD, you could get around that. Maybe if you're planning on having a family member die at some point, you could probably get out of it. And
probably.
Yeah, what were the other reasons that you could get out of it?
There was a gentleman that ran his own business and they let him go because he was running his own business. So those are 3 things.
Okay, so plan on having a family member die, take a PhD, or start a company.
Yeah, you can be violently ill. I remember interns were so ill while canvassing and we just had to keep going.
Yeah.
And there were no bathrooms, ladies and gentlemen. If you think that you're going to be able to, chug that water and then say, excuse me, can I go to the bathroom? You are wrong. You are in the middle of nowhere, Ontario, with no official bathroom. I should say.
No official bathroom, and at the same time, no shrubbery anywhere. Just flat plains and, some infill lots. So it was honestly, it was creative. So I think that that's also what we honed in on that year. It was creativity, a lot of creativity. But Sam, you're ignoring a major benefit of the Conservative Party internship. That was all the pizza that we were afforded. A lot of that. After a hard day of canvassing, the candidate would come out and, I know you kids have had a hard day, but how about a $7 cheese pizza?
Canada, nothing is really out of your reach. And so I think that's what's so important to reinforce to young Canadians, especially whose head is in, whose minds are in America, but physically they're in Canada. That it's very hopeful here. The fact that there's so much accessibility, the fact that that you can make one lateral move and you can be in a small town in Calgary to the parliamentary assistant to a member of parliament. That's amazing. That means if you work hard and if you make the right moves for yourself and you make the right decisions, you can basically get to the highest office in our country. And obviously there are downsides because you have, frankly, ill-equipped people there, opportunists, but you're going to get that anywhere. And that's why this kind of mantra that we've consumed from the States, that you can't get ahead in Canada, that young people are just screwed forever. It's just completely false.
Yeah, and I think that that's probably something that the summer taught me the most is nothing is unattainable. I went from that summer to the next summer working for the Ontario government. And I think that, those types of opportunities, they're not, the easiest things to get, but they aren't far and few between, so much so that, somebody's excluded from that space. And I think that that's what really, I think if a political party is looking into getting youth more involved, what I would say as an uninvolved youth who wanted to be involved and ultimately was involved, it's making it more accessible. So, whether that's putting your, intern ads on Facebook and giving a chance to the kid who has no political experience, I'd say that that's probably the biggest way that they are going to attract youth, and kind of taking out a lot of, that sort of inner language, okay, talking so strictly about policy and bills and making people feel like they don't have the knowledge to get into that system, because that's exactly who you want in the system, young, our youth, who you can actually give all that information to. So I think that it does create definitely for an inclusive, an inclusive experience. But I think, what it should more so be is get those uninvolved youth and then make the curve up to make those elected officials more qualified than some of them are. Because some of them, it's just man, why are you here? Well, I think that this is sort of the main thing too with politics in general. If you want to get people involved, you need people there who look like them, who act like them, and it's something attainable who they can actually be. I think personally, Michelle Rempel, she's a great sort of example of this, of being, she's a young, fun, just woman who wants to get other people involved. And I think her willingness to speak to young women and say, I'll help you get involved, kind of breaking down the question of, how do I get involved? Oh my gosh, how would it be feasible to do something like this? Whether, it is the whole internship route, or even if it's the whole running route. I think she does a really good job of that. And I think that allows for a lot of young women to see, okay, this is something I could actually do.
Yeah, I don't think once on the Hill did anybody ask me what I thought.
No. And those who did, I think they already had a structure in mind, thinking, oh, kids, they want this responsibility. They want to work hard. They want to do this, that, the other. I'm have you ever spoken to a 15-year-old? Have you actually ever spoken to a 15-year-old? Because that's not really what they want.
No, and talking to younger folks, talking to my little brother's friends, there's definitely this talk down sense, with especially young women in politics, we paint it as like out of their reach, which is complete nonsense, right? And young people are curious about the political process. And right now, all we've kind of enabled them to do is scream at each other on Twitter. But if we can channel those people, especially young Canadians on Twitter screaming about American politics, what a waste of resource, man. What a freaking waste. Why don't we divert that energy into, maybe going to EDA meetings where it's very important that you have, young, diverse, people with different political beliefs on those same EDAs so that they can actually, put forth a candidate that can win a riding. Specifically, I think we were both like the highs were highs, but the lows were very low. I think having no political experience definitely fed into that because you don't know what to expect and you don't know what a 8-hour canvassing day looks like. Basically like hell. And I think the fact that we were miserable at times just kind of was a testament to how honest and how like raw we took the experience. Do you know what I mean? Like we kind of absorbed it in its entirety.
Yeah, and I think that honestly that is a pretty holistic view of politics in general. I think if you aren't willing to get out there and knock on doors, if that's too much for you, I think the game in general is going to be too much for you. But no, I think it does definitely prep you for whether it's a life in politics, a dip of the toe in politics. I think it was pretty holistically. I think even some of the days that we spent staring at Skype for Business, doodling on our journals and stuff, because there is downtime for sure. It's certainly downtime in the summer.
Well, it was Ottawa. We were in the city that always sleeps. So obviously there's going to be tons of downtime.
Yeah. So what was your experience like on the Hill, Sam? What I'd say is no matter how bad of a day I had, if I had just the worst day ever, I'd take my little Hill pass and I'd walk right through the front doors of Parliament and I felt like a pretty big dog. I mean, you can't do that now because renovations, I think we're year 1 of 48 of renovations.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's a bit optimistic, but yeah, I loved the atmosphere of Parliament. I loved the people in my office. They were honestly the nicest ladies. They really took me under their wing. They looked out for me. They were very honest. So I think that's probably what I cherish the most, besides our friendship, Sarah. Yeah. So I would say that, pulling from our experience in the Conservative internship and our experience more widely in politics, have those conversations. If you're an older gentleman, have that conversation with a younger lass. If you're a young lass, reach out to older people. They have wisdom and knowledge that you can, you can utilize. In conservative politics, it's always like this polarity between the steadfast conservatives that look one way and think one way and are, on one side of the country. But we're everywhere. Trust me, I'm in Quebec. Reach out. It doesn't need to be this polarity all the time.
If you think that you're unqualified, if you think, oh, I'd love to get involved, but I have no connections, if you're a young person, old person, and you just feel like you don't have the connections, let me and Sam serve as a testament to just shoot your shot, email an MP, apply to those internships, apply to those positions, because they are open and there's definitely space for you. I can guarantee there's space for you.
Yeah. So
on that note, make sure to share this with, your kids or your parents, people who are really angry at the state of Canadian politics and want to change something, because there's lots of work to do. I want to thank Sarah for being a gracious co-host. She is the best, but that was a bit awkward. But anyways, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. I don't know how you subscribe a video, but I'm sure someone can figure it out. I sound very old. And yeah, I can't wait to, get back on it with that's so gross. How do I do a closer, Sarah? Okay, you can close it, Sarah.
Like and smash that subscribe button.
Yeah, if you don't want 7 years of bad luck and Bloody Mary to show up tonight, definitely like, subscribe, and share this video.
To your whole email list. Otherwise, the ghost of Blood Murphy will appear under your bed tonight.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next week.